First of all, I want to get away from the dictionary definition of a constitution. A constitution must have purpose, and the purpose must be to create a nation that conduces to the greatest happiness of the greatest number of people. That is what a constitution must be. And having set the objective of the constitution, you then frame a constitution to achieve that objective.
Because we really do have a race problem. Those divisions are real. We see it in our politics, we see it in our trade union. We see that they take the divisions with them. Look at where people live in this US. You have enclaves in the Bronx and in Richmond Hill and in Brooklyn. They're taking the division with them.
Women are dying in the streets, and we have a government pontificator running around campaigning for women's vote. No women should vote in this election coming up unless there is something done to the legislation as Magistrate Kim is advocating.
That voices like ours that are not in the political trench fighting it out, voices like ours should become stronger. One of the things about the Caribbean is that we have never had one discourse. Bass will know the days of the New World and the Old World and the radical left and so on. What we had was this concourse of ideas, which I think in the early days of independence pushed us in a certain direction. We've got to move back to that point of having these multiple discourses.
Good morning, and welcome back to another week of A Vision for a New Guyana. My name is Charles Sugrim, and I'm pleased to be here this morning again to discuss with our audience what is happening for our country and what we expect to happen. Now, recently, when I started this program a couple of weeks ago, we started with what we perceive to be the need for a new constitution. And as every day goes by, it seems to suggest to us that the need for a new constitution is required. When I listen, if the constitution is not working, what do we do? If something is not working in the office, something is not working in the home, if your refrigerator is not working, do you keep it? Or do you put it aside or get someone to repair it? Why is it different with our Constitution? It is not working. What surprised me, well, it didn't surprise me, but what I'm concerned about is the former Attorney General, Anil Nandala, last week says that the Constitution is fine. It's just that we are not observing it. Well, my question to Mr. Nandalal is, what do we do when it is not working? What are the ramifications a country can take if what we have, as you said, is okay, but it's not working? What are the corrective actions we can take? The CCJ ruled that the president election, nomination, and selection of the then chairman for the Elections Commission was unconstitutional. So, did they tell the president that the chairman have to resign? No, but it implies that if it's unconstitutional, you replace him, which is what the president did. The CCJ also ruled that Article 106 of the Constitution triggers in a successful no confidence vote. They agree that the no confidence vote was validly passed. They also agree that the constitutional requirement that triggers that must be followed. What did the government do? The government has flaunted the very Constitution that they are supposed to uphold. I want to go back a little his history, and I went through the good news about having record, and I know my guest is a custodian of a lot of records. But in the Kaitor news of Monday, December 15, 2014. It speaks of something called constitutional reform. This is what it says. Guyana cannot have a cut and paste constitution. Who said that? The then leader of the opposition, Mr. David Granger. He also said in that article, and I quote, "We need to move away from beer garden talk and find out from the people what reforms they would want to see." End of quote. That is what opposition leader David Granger said on December 15, 2014. We are almost 5 years, Mr. Granger, since your election to the president of Guyana, to the presidency. Did you forget what you said on December 15, 2014? And that comes to our discussion today, that I really want us to look at our constitution. The thing is, the PPP seems not to want to change the constitution. The PNC is not inclined to change it. I am elated when I listened to Mr. Lennox Schumann, the leader of the Liberty and Justice Party, yesterday, when he gave his press statement and he said constitutional reform or a new constitution will be priority in his administration. I pray and hope that the next government will really take on the need for a new constitution. The thing is, we keep repeating about the founding fathers that wrote our constitution. I beg to differ. I don't think they're the founding fathers. I think they're the founding children. And it's not only children, I think they were the founding children of kindergarten grade. Because what they wrote in this constitution, nothing tells us what happened when it's breached like this breach now. What do we do? The PPP and the PNC in 1999, when they did the constitutional reform, they included Article 106, 6, and 7. But what did they put there? In a no confidence vote, if it is successfully passed, I'm paraphrasing, the president and the cabinet shall resign. Did they resign, Mr. Nandalal? What are the repercussions if they do not resign? What do the country do? But what was included in that article was, despite the resignation of the president and the cabinet, the government shall continue to be in office. What nonsense is that? If you have to resign, if I resign my post as a professor in college, do I go back and teach again? I have resigned. I have to leave. If you resign from being CEO of an office, do they say, okay, you resign, but stay on? You resign, you got to go. I think it was the PPP who thought that despite what is happening, this article, that they will continue to be in government, and if a no confidence is passed, they will continue to remain in office. Now the table has turned. The PNC is in office. And whatever happened then, this government continued to be in office until the next election is held. Why can't our constitution says with a no confidence vote, as the president and cabinet resigns, someone else takes over until the new election is held? The constitution says that the chancellor will be the next person in line because there is no parliament, there is no cabinet, so you cannot appoint none of those people. So the next person in line was the chancellor. Why was the chancellor the president after December 21, 2018? So there's a lot of things we need to do in our constitution. The other thing we talk about is the fixed day or date for election. And what is going on in Guyana, everyone is on, I don't know what you want to call it. We don't know. The president came out one day and said that election earliest date is March 2nd. Maybe pressured from whatever happened. He came back the next day and said election now will be held on March 2nd. So the thing is, we need to change our constitution. We need to have checks and balances. We need to have a constitution that works for the people. Here in the United States, the framers of the Constitution, the founding fathers, they made a constitution. I think it's a marvelous piece of document. But over the years, America had amendment to the Constitution because the institution in the United States works. In Guyana, we do not have that. Having said those things, I want to bring to you our guest this morning. There's no guest to us. Sis has been around for a long time. We know he's a freedom fighter. As I was going through the newspaper in 2014, there are a lot of letters written by Sis and Dr. Rose. And one of those letters was that the PPP was taking Guyana down to a pariah state. Well, guess what? It is now a pariah state. It's not taking down. The country is now a pariah state. So what Sis and Dr. Rose predicted in 2014 has actually come to pass, that the country is in a state of pariah. We are really a state. And I pray God that our country will not be a failed state. But a country fails when institution and the rule of law does not work. So this morning I want to welcome Sis to our program. And it's not a host guest program. It's more of a discussion that Sis and I will have this morning. And we want to talk, Sis, let's start about the Constitution. It seems to me that GECOM has a parallel, there's a parallel force within GECOM. Yeah. The commission ruled that the claims and objection will start on October 1 and it will extend for 35 days. Someone in GECOM overruled that of the commission, the commissioners and the chairman, and extended to, I think, 49 days. Who is really running GECOM, Sis?
Well, let me start by saying I'm blessed to be here. I think it was about 6 months ago, Nohar Singh started this project a little bit more, where we started these debates about how to enhance human development in Guyana. And this is a human development issue that you've raised. But let me start by saluting GECOM Commissioner Sis Gonraj, my namesake, who pontificated so well on this issue yesterday on Globespan TV, of course. And this is what he pontificated on. For those who you can see, it's the official gazette of the government of Guyana issued on Thursday, the 26th of September. It's actually order number 70, issued under the hands, and I'll show you, under the hands, signed by the Mr. Claudette Singh, the chairman of GECOM. So, and what really is in this document is a travesty, because you have a 7-member. So let me just start, because to get full energy to this discussion, we must celebrate our ancestors. And I want to recognize Rudy. Well, they're all living men, except for Do Not Sing. I want us to recognize Rudy Collins, Eddie Hopkinson, Do Not Sing, Joe Singh, Steve Surjbali, all former chairmen of GECOM. They all set a standard for democracy and election management in Guyana that we're not seeing today. And I'm very, very concerned, very, very concerned what has happened since September 18th. What this document basically said, and it says it very clearly, two things is wrong with this. One, you highlighted the phantom extension of the claims and objection period from 35, as authorized by the GECOM board, as we call it, which is the 7 commissioners, to 49 days. And the second more important thing is, it says here in item 4 of this document, persons whose name appear on the preliminary list of electors, which is the preliminary voters list, these persons are to visit the registration office to verify their registration record for inclusion in the official list of electors. which
Or
is the
says,
official voters list.
all right, let's talk about the first one. 2 points you raised there. One is that the GECOM chairman and the commissioners agree that the claims and objection period will be 35 days. That is
Agreed.
according to the Gazette.
And even Commissioner Vincent Alexander is on Globespan TV on record saying we've just agreed to 35 days claims and objection.
Right. So now, who made that decision, in your opinion, to extend it from 35 to 49 days?
I don't want to speculate, but I'm just saying to you, I have a document, an official government of Guyana document signed by the chairman of GECOM saying that the period of claims and objection is 49 days. I cannot hold anyone else accountable. I have to hold the chairman of GECOM accountable here.
And that's the question. What are the remedies available to correct that? Is there some corrective action the commissioner and the chairman can take to say, well, listen, it is not November, whatever date it goes 49 days, but it's actually November 5th, which is the 35 days after October 1.
Well, they can issue a corrective order. I mean, a corrective order. The big challenge is how many more decisions are made in GECOM at the board level, and when it comes down to the management level, it is varied. That is the big concern. It's not so much this decision. This is one of them that was caught. How many more are there, and how many more will be there between now to March 2nd that will be varied? Was this a trial balloon, a test balloon to see how much they can hoodwink the commission?
But that comes to mind. That comes to mind. What we're saying is that is there a parallel elections commission? Maybe there is one.
Well, then that is why I referred to the former chairman, because they set a standard. And this has never happened in the history of this country, of the democratic part of this country, post-1992. Even when, I remember there was a situation where one of the CEO of GECOM did a miscalculation with the mathematics. He was told wrong, it was corrected, and it was presented. You understand? What is going on in GECOM is really a mystery, because GECOM has to understand, the Secretariat, especially Mr. Lowenfield, he is a creature of the 7-member commission. He doesn't report to anybody else. His boss is Miss Justice Claudette Singh. And I was told, and I trust my source, there was a meeting held with the Private Sector Commission in the boardroom, and the chairman is talking to her invited guest. And Mr. Lowenfield is answering a personal call about meals and some nonsense. You cannot do that. That is total administrative gross disrespect to your boss. So clearly somebody has to bell this cat. Is it the tail that is wagging the dog in this case? Something is wrong at GECOM, and Madam Chairman Claudette Singh has to step up. She has to be the boss. She has the confidence of the opposition. She has the confidence of the government, the political other political party who is usurping in government and parading as if they're a government. So she has the confidence of the PNC. She has the confidence of the PPP. She has the confidence of the third parties. She has the confidence of Guyana. What is she afraid of?
And that brings a very good point. We'll get into the verification of the list in a minute. But that comes to the point again. We have a commission, commissioners, and a chairman that is way outside the mainstream. You need professionalism in a place like the Elections Commission. We need professionalism in every sphere of our country, and we don't have that. Right now, as we speak, in the Carter-Price formula, we all know that it's 3 PPP commissioners, 3 PNC commissioners, and then a chairman who's supposed to be independent. But that chairman largely lean to be with a legal mind. And I think that's a flaw as well. Why doesn't the chairman have to be someone who is a professional and get things done?
We are where we are. But what I'm saying, I'm looking for quick solutions. And I don't understand up to now why this chairman, recognizing or administrative weakness. And I'm going to call it as it is. Everybody don't want to call it. She's a judge, but she's weak in administrative skills, in leadership
That
skills.
I
So
agree. I also
that's
support
fine.
you.
That's
Yeah.
fine. But when you're weak, what you do, you buy in skill sets. We know that Rudy Collins, Eddie Hopkinson, do not sing is now deceased, so we can't. Joe Singh, Steve Surjbali, all credible citizens of Guyana who've done a fantastic job at GECOM. Why don't she set up an advisory board with these good men to be her arms and legs and supporters to take this process forward? We know what is happening. What has happened at GECOM is her predecessor, Mr. Patterson, did a hatchet job at GECOM. 13 of the 13 in the leadership of GECOM are not working in favor of free and fair elections.
And that's
Let
the
me
problem.
repeat that.
And that's the
13
problem.
of the 13 in the leadership of GECOM are not working in favor of free and fair elections.
And you're
So
right.
they're
I mean,
that's why you will find these things will happen again. It will happen again and again and again. There is a credibility problem at GECOM in the management.
yeah, okay. And I think that comes to the question again. Our institutions are not working. And this is a classic example. Our elections commission, as an institution, such an important body in our country, is not at par. And I think if I were to give them a grade as a professor, I think they will get a D, maybe a D minus. It's really, really sad to know that what they're doing there. And in fairness to Claudette Singh.
But in fairness, it's insubordination. And you know, in an environment of insubordination, we have to ask some questions.
And
why were the minutes being circumvented? Why are the decisions of GECOM 7 commissioners being circumvented?
yeah,
And
exactly.
who is
No,
doing this circumvention?
Those are excellent questions that the Elections Commission, and again, because it's so partisan and the country itself is, nothing seems to get done in a very professional way. And that is one of our problems in Guyana, is that we do a lot of, job that is really, really not very professional. And unless we get to that point.
You're talking about professionalism. One of the few professionals in GECOM, he was fired because the predecessor again thought he was shifty. Mr. Vishnu Prasad is one of the few people who has had advanced training in elections management in Guyana. And he was fired because he didn't meet the mold that the previous chairman was trying to construct.
But wouldn't be a good idea. But wouldn't be a good idea if Claudette Singh can bring him in as a consultant, maybe, so he can help.
I think it's an excellent idea because he is well skilled, well experienced. He worked with several chairmen, and also she should bring in the previous chairmen. I mean, Joe Singh,
as an
such
advisory,
a talented human being,
as advisory board.
Yeah. Steve Surjbali, Rudy Collins, who supervised the 1992 historic elections. Let these guys sit with you and advise you on some of the pitfalls that can happen. And more of these pitfalls will happen. Because the design is they are now trying to push the February 24th date on the GECOM's work plan beyond March 2nd. The whole game is to give certain individuals, as they described in the PNC Congress General Council meeting, their full 5 years. That's the design. Some people want to have their full 5 years, even if it is through the back door, even if it's through illegal means.
Okay, Sis, you mentioned credibility. What is the credibility problem? Try to tell our audience, what is the credibility problem of GECOM?
GECOM clearly is not working for all of Guyana. There are people, for example, there's serious allegation against the deputy CEO. Serious allegation that she was seen at PNC meetings cheering for their candidate in the 2015 elections. And these things were never properly investigated. When you get a job at GECOM, that's why we go mainly for teachers at GECOM, because teachers is a credible profession. It's a noble profession. We go for teachers mainly because they are the ones who were more likely to walk the middle ground. So there's allegations against key players. Look at the press release issued by the PRO of GECOM. This is the PRO who said in December 2018 that we can hold an election in 3 months. And 2 days ago, a press release was issued basically outlining, and this is what the press release outlined. I must state what it says. It says, the day persons must come to the GECOM office to verify.
Okay, and that's I was getting to that point now. So you're saying right now most of the appointees at GECOM are not credible people? Are you questioning their credibility?
No, I'm saying the leadership. I said the top 13. I believe the thousands of teachers who are really running polling stations and are at the middle level and so forth, they are fantastic people who are trying to do a good job, but they are being misled by the top 13 people.
Okay, point taken. Let's get now, before we go to a break, let's talk about the verification of the list. In my humble opinion, we have about, let's say, 500,000 voters on the preliminary list. If everyone, both opposition and the government is, the opposition is complaining that the list is padded with whoever it is, and the government is saying that we need a clean list, wouldn't that verification, I mean, if GECOM gonna have offices across Guyana, and they will these offices will have adequate staff to take care of people, because you don't want people to go there and wait for 3-4 hours to verify their name. So it should be, a number of staff available within GECOM office across the country. So everyone goes in there and verify, yes, I am Charles Sugrim. Yes, I'm Narayan Singh. Yes, I'm Peter Jones. And this is my ID to verify that I am that person. I think that's a good move. I don't see what's the problem with that.
Well, there's a major problem with it because they are using, first of all, you can't put the burden on me to verify myself when I already took the measure several years ago in 2008 to make sure that I was on the list. The burden is on you, GECOM, to verify whether I am on the list or not. Now, the question is also, the Chief Justice had made a ruling. She said, once you are on the central register, no one can take you off unless two things happen. Article 59 is one of them. And the second one, well, is Article 59 everything? Article 59 says if you're deceased and there's a death certificate to prove you're deceased, take you off. Fine. Dead people should not be voting. And if you are mentally certified, mentally insane, take you off. If you've gone to jail, take you off. So there's people who must come off the list.
I understand that.
An 18-year-old in Albion who is not interested in elections but is already on the list, the burden should not be placed on them to verify themselves.
But if if we are all fighting for a clean, credible list, I don't see a problem with 500,000 people, if that is among registered, just to go and verify, yes, I am that person. Now, hold on, before you go on. I'm sure within the GECOM office, they will have representative of political parties there. So that if someone come and says, listen, I am this person, and the GECOM staff said, no, you're not, then they can have the political party say, no, let's challenge this, that this person is the person who he or she says they are. So I really don't see a problem with them verifying.
Are we not lovers of the Constitution? And what Chief Justice Roxanne George clearly said in her ruling, it's unconstitutional to remove the names of people who are on the PLE unless Article 59 is followed, which is dead people, mad people, and jailed people. So why would we want to walk an unconstitutional road? Because the administration of GECOM makes up this regulation as it goes along. What we have to stay close to is the supreme law, the Constitution. And the Constitution says Guyanese people must stay on the preliminary voters list if they're there. So if you're on the preliminary voters list in 2015, you stay on the list. And the only way you come off that list is if you die, you run mad, or you go to jail.
Okay, I know, and that's a valid point. Again, it's semantics. The Constitution says that everyone above 18, you're Guyanese or you're a Commonwealth citizen living in Guyana for 1 year, you should be on that list. Now, all within GECOM, they can make the decision on how that list is vetted and to verify a clean list. And I would support. Now, the problem is, I would support the people going to GECOM office to verify that their name is on the list. But what about those people who are out in the interior maybe? They went overseas for a trip.
But it's
illegal. That's the point.
It's illegal.
Do
Why
you
would
remove
you support
them?
an illegality?
I
It's
know
an
that.
illegality.
And it do come into question the legality, because what about someone who is, who cannot go from home to there to verify? Do they take them off the list when they can actually,
No.
So it's...
The Chief Justice says they cannot take them off the list. So this is an administrative imposition on the Constitution, and there's nothing higher than the Constitution. If the Constitution says we drive on the left-hand side, nobody in Guyana has a right to say we drive on the other side. Nobody.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that the Commission will have to make the rules, to verify that the list is acceptable. Now the question is, in that rule, there must be exception. All of us do law, right? In our studies, we do law. And there is the rule, but there's always exception to the rule. And then there's another exception to that exception. So I'm saying, even though GECOM is saying, listen, you need to go to the GECOM office to verify your authenticity, that I am the person who I say I am on the list, there should also be some measure for those who cannot go, should not be removed.
This is a backdoor measurement the operators in GECOM are using to impose house-to-house registration on the people.
Okay.
It is an unfair burden. You just raised people in the Amerindian communities. Do you know how many miles people at Gun Strip are from the registration center? Over 100 miles. Those people have to find transportation costs to get from Gun Strip to Letem or wherever the registration
But sis, I'm not
office is.
disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that the rule is made by GECOM, but there must be exception to that rule. So the thing is, if someone cannot go, who will travel 100 miles to go verify their name is on the list? I don't think I'll do that. So there must be an exception to the rule.
No, but let's get one point very clear. GECOM is not a country. GECOM is a servant of Guyana, a state called Guyana. And a state called Guyana has a constitution.
And
we
sis,
have to follow that.
If you walk on the screen, Krishna Dan Paul is saying the same thing we're talking about. What about those working in the interior, or working at sea, students abroad, those on holiday abroad? They cannot come off the list because they cannot go to the commission. And I'm saying, even though the commission rule says that you need to go to the GECOM office to verify that you're on the list, there got to be exception to that rule. And I'm sure that the chairman and the commissioners and who run GECOM will realize
Charles, I beg
that
to
they
humbly
cannot
disagree. I beg to humbly disagree, because big men and big women must learn the culture of following the rule of law. If the big men and big women must learn to follow the rule of law, they cannot make it up. GECOM's commission or GECOM chairman or GECOM secretariat is not bigger than the rule of law. The rule of law, as clearly spelled out by Justice Roxanne George, Chief Justice Roxanne George, she says once you're on the preliminary list of electors, there's only Article 859 of the Constitution is the only mechanism to remove you. The only mechanism, no other mechanism. And let's follow the law. That's all we're asking for. Follow the law.
Okay.
Do not try to, and this is all part of that scheme of delay. You see, the bigger picture here is the delay tactics. There's a strategy in place. So now they've failed at the political level to delay the elections, because now, if you notice the statements coming out from the diplomatic community against the political imposition, the president had to call a date. And even though some people are saying he hasn't proclaimed it, I am going to hold him to that. And I know the nation is holding him to that. But you know what is happening? They're now calculating that GECOM will come with their begging bowl around February and says, hey, we can't keep February 24th. We need an extra month. And oh, Mr. Granger will have a hallelujah moment because that's what he wants. His game is to go to May 2020 and even beyond.
But says, again, I come back to the point that we need a new constitution in Guyana where institutions are independent and they work for the good of Guyana, not for the political parties. The thing, as I said before, you mentioned the deputy CEO at GECOM went to PNC meetings. There are also allegations, Mr. Boudou, who was the CEO in the PPP time, he went to a lot of PPP meetings. Is there any problem with that? And the thing is,
no. GECOM staff should never be going to
exactly. They should be apolitical. They
whether
should
they
not.
went to PPP meetings or PNC meetings, GECOM staff. That is why I said again, teachers are usually targeted as to get employed because teachers mold all minds of Guyana. They don't pick and choose.
All right, sis. I know. We have so much to discuss, but let us take a break. We go to our to Devin, and when we come back, we'll continue discussion. Bottom line is that Guyana needs a new constitution. Mr. Leonard Schuman has indicated that as the only political leader right now. He'll be here next week on the studio. He'll be here in New York, and I hope that many of you can come out to see him. But let's go to a break, and we'll come back and we continue discussion. Thank you.
L'Amour is helping to sponsor Globespan 24/7 programs. L'Amour will be celebrating Diwali on board the Princess Luxury Yacht with a cruise on October 19th at 6:30 p.m. Take a cruise down the Hudson with non-stop Diwali celebrations plus DJ and fashion show. Tickets start from $75. That's a Diwali cruise on board the Princess Yacht on October 19th at 6:30 p.m. Call Angeli at 845-545-9936 or Shika at 646-732-0065.
And Sugrim and Associate, LLC, Certified Public Accountants. We are very pleased to co-sponsor this program. We pay personal taxes, business, partnership, not-for-profit, estates and trusts, and of course, all accounting and payroll services. We are also the agent for the IRS for tax ID matters. In case you're looking for tax ID here in the US, please contact us. We'll verify your document and send the information in to get your tax ID. We have two addresses. One is 20507 Hillside Avenue, Suite 24, Hollis in New York. And the other office is at 13501 Linden Boulevard in South Ozone Park. Call us on 929-460-5043. Okay, sis, let us continue this discussion. Again, I believe all institutions that are constitutional, whether that be the Elections Commission, the Public Service Commission, the Teaching Service Commission, the Legal Service Commission, whatever it is, they should all be independent. And that's why I am proposing since the very beginning of this program that we have a president who is, as you said, non-tutelar, right? Who do not have executive authority. And then we have a prime minister who has that authority to run the government. So when a commission is established, the prime minister, whoever he or she is, have nothing to do now with the commission. The commission runs their business in the interest of Guyana, not for a political party. And if a commissioner or whoever you want to call them in those commissions, they go beyond the commission or becomes unconstitutional, the president can step in and dismiss that person. And that's what we need, that check and balances. Even the police force. I don't believe the police commissioner should be appointed by the prime minister if we have a prime minister who have executive authority. It must be appointed by the police commission who can fire that police commissioner if he or she is not doing her work.
Charles, I agree with you with one thing. And there's a two-facet answer to this position that you put forward. One, in the current state of events, we got to work with what we have. We have a constitution that is not the best. So we have to work with it until it can be changed. But I believe the new government should commit not to a revised constitution, but to the writing of a brand new constitution within 14 months of winning the elections. Whoever wins the government.
Can I stop you there? Can I stop you there 1 second, if you don't mind? The PPP promised that in 1992. Hold on. PPP was jumping on the rooftop when they had this Burnham Constitution. For 23 years, they sit on it as if everything is correct. This government now, I support the AFC since its inception. They jump on the top of the roof saying that first thing they will do is constitutional reform. That Nigel Hughes went around, did some reports, submitted to the Prime Minister, and is now catching dust in the Prime Minister's shelf. So these politicians, they say all the good things for a campaign, and then it becomes nothing. What do the people of Guyana can do?
No, my point is, let me make my point. And my point basically is this. I said, I am calling on whoever wins the new government. I don't know who's going to win the new government. All I'm committed to is democracy. So whoever wins the new government, I am asking, and my appeal to them is to write a new constitution within 14 months. And these are some of the things I would like to see, and I'm sure many, many Guyanese would like to see. One, the first thing I would like to see is fixed date elections. 1st of September, yes. Every 5 years, just like the United States. We don't need a Granger or a Nagamutu or a Irfan Ali or a Jagdeo to call elections. It is set for the 1st of September every 5 years.
Amen, brother. I support that.
GECOM has to deliver that elections. Now, so this takes away from the executive that power to play this game that we're seeing happening today. Secondly, Guyana does not need an executive president. We need an executive prime minister who shall be the head of government. What we need is a titular president like what we had with the Arthur Chung. But there's one big caveat from the old constitution to the titular president that I'm projecting. This titular president shall be the head of state, and he shall be titular until the constitution comes under attack. Then he's activated by constitutional means. So
right, that will be in the constitution.
The person has to be a unique person. This person has to be a retired public servant, judge, military officer, ambassador, who has served at the highest level without political affiliation. So I'm talking about people like Rudy Collins, Joe Singh, Cecil Kennard, Desiree Bernard, that kind of category of people. We're not talking about picking a James Patterson and calling him independent. We're talking about people who are truly independent and who are true professionals. Finally, GECOM needs to be decommissioned. And let me make this very clear. GECOM needs to be decommissioned and reestablished as an accountable and transparent body, not a politically influenced organization as it is today. To distinguish from what I'm really saying here is this. That 7-member that we have now, it's a waste of time. 3 from representing the opposition, 3 representing the government. They don't achieve anything. So everything is down to the chairman. So the chairman is overburdened. What we need is people who will be helping the chairman, right? And they shouldn't be political. So you have 1 from the government team, the new vision that I have, 1 from the government team, 1 from the combined opposition, and the remaining 5 comes from civil society. For example, the interreligious body should have 1, the business community should have 1, the youth fraternity should have 1, under 35, must be under 35. Because 60% of Guyana is under 35 and they're unrepresented in this country, right? Then, of course, the women representative and then the chairman. And let me finish this last point in how we appoint this chairman. The chairman is a special case because never again should a head of government or a head of state or a leader of the opposition be allowed to influence the appointment of a chairman. The chairperson should be appointed by the Judicial Service Commission after consulting the business community, the religious community, professional bodies such as the accountants, the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers, the academics, women's movement, youth movement, trade union movement. But the Judicial Service Commission, a body that has served this country well, should be tasked with selecting that person. It should not be up to a politician because the GECOM chairman should not be doing a political job.
I subscribe to your recommendation there, in that when you talk about the Elections Commission, not the Judicial Service Commission. The Elections
No,
Commission.
I'm saying the Judicial Service Commission should choose the chairman of GECOM.
Oh, not the Elections Commission?
No, the chairman. No, you don't want the Elections Commission to be, because they're representing different stakeholders.
Oh, I see your point. You want the Judicial Service Commission to...
You want one of the few independent bodies left in Guyana, which is the Judicial Service Commission. Noble people.
Yeah, but sis, is the judiciary independent? Look what happened in England. Look in England recently. Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, prorogued Parliament, so to speak. Right? They went to court, the judge, and the thing about England, look at what England did. Immediately the justice system worked on that the request to look at what Boris Johnson did. In Guyana, we have December 21 was the no confidence vote. That thing went until when? The thing finished until June? Went through the court until June. Why that long period to go through an important matter like that? That's why I think Guyana, the judiciary system in Guyana need to be fixed. Now, the Judicial Service Commission, that is even not independent too, because again, all the members are appointed by the president. And of course, it's really messy, and I think Guyana really, really need a new constitution. As I said...
Charles, we're down to 12 minutes, and I want to ask you, I mean, I'm sorry I have to intervene like this, but let's focus on now to March 2nd, because this is going to be the moment for Guyana. This is where we will separate whether we're a banana republic or we're serious about democracy.
Okay, that's a good point. Now, GECOM has set a date that they can have election by the end of February. The president came out and said election will be on March 2nd. That is confirmed now. No, president said March 2nd. It is March 2nd.
I saw the video and I'm going to believe him.
So GECOM, the ball is now in GECOM's court. So whatever who says what, it is GECOM who now have to live up. And I don't think Claudette Singh going to sit there and allow the staff at GECOM, no matter how partisan we think they might be, to override her authority, because she has now committed herself and the commission to have elections by end of February. The president will have to dissolve parliament sometime in December, because 3 months after that will be
Charles,
election.
what happens to this situation that happened on Thursday? There's two things we can suppose. Was her signature forged? I'm asking that question. So there need to be a proper investigation to find out, did she agree to this extension from 35 to 49 days? Because it wasn't agreed in the commission. So we need to understand what is going on, because GECOM right now is not acting in a very accountable manner, in a very consistent manner, in a very transparent manner. And more than ever in its entire history, GECOM needs to walk the straight road now.
Excellent.
And this is important.
And I hope that GECOM is listening to us. At least they have a staff, regardless how we think, how competent or incompetent they are, they have a responsibility. Now, we mentioned, someone comment in my recently, that we talk about a fixed date for election. So the question was, what happens if there's a no confidence vote? And I said in my presentation earlier, if that happens, what happened in the United States if they impeach the president? The vice president takes over. There's no election until election is due 4 years after the last election. So the thing is, election day or date can be fixed. And if the prime minister, if he or she is the head of government, if he or she is impeached, then the deputy prime minister takes over. And they run the country, that person run the country until the next election. Same thing if the president is impeached, the vice president takes over, or in Guyana case, we can have the ombudsman takes over. I don't know. It all has to be in the constitution. But a fixed date for election, I think Guyana needs that. We need to come out of this Commonwealth morass.
You have abnormalities like what happened in Israel when a government falls, and then if it falls, then we should have the spirit and intent of our 106 is very simple, Spirit and intent of 106 says if the majority of the parliament loses, or the National Assembly loses confidence in the government resigns. And after it resigns, whoever is the head of state continue to maintain business, but with the clear instruction that they hold elections in 3 months. So there is a modularity. So there is enough information to be able to deliver elections anytime. GECOM has two mandates. One, to continually update the preliminary list of electors and update the National Register, as they call it, the Central Register. The second thing is to hold elections within 3 months at any time.
And not only that says they're well paid. The chairman of the commission gets 10,000 US a month. The CEO, I'm sure, gets about $2 million Guyana dollars a month, maybe more.
Very well
so
paid.
the thing is,
I don't know what did they do between January and June. That's the point. These guys were.
I agree with you. GECOM should be in a state of readiness if an election is held. I mean, based on the current constitution. If we change the constitution and says election are held on fixed day or date, then that becomes, GECOM knows that the election is to be held in this particular time, and then they will work towards that. But coming back to...
There's a pattern here, you know, and we need to understand it. There is a pattern here where there is like hold me, loose me pattern. One time you hear in December, Yolande Ward, the PRO, says we can hold elections in 3 months, quite cavalierly. Then when put to the test, you find a million reasons why it can't be held. Then when you impose this house to house, when the courts speak on it and the GECOM chairman says, okay, halt it, guess what? They find another way to impose a house to house on you. So clearly there's a credibility issue at GECOM. And I want to issue this recommendation because their predecessor, Madam Chairman's predecessors, she had international cooperation. GECOM had recipient of financial and technical support from international organizations like the IDB, the USAID, UK DFID, CEDAR out of Canada, UNDP, the European Union, even India offered technical support to this GECOM. All of it, the predecessor knocked down. He knocked down the UN help.
All right, let's get back. That's done. That's past. That's water under the bridge.
But we need
what we are saying, what I'm saying, but the chairman currently says that she's getting help from the US and other parts of the world. So she is getting help. She's getting technical help. I'm sure she will get financial help if it needs be. So there is support around the globe, really, for Guyana. What bothers me is that some people now are complaining that the US, the British, and the European Union has made a declaration saying that, you know, the government need to comply with the Constitution, as if that is kind of interfering in our internal affairs. What is amazing is about this.
What was Mr. Brian Hunt doing?
No, what is amazing?
What was Mr. Brian Hunt doing?
No, at that time, and that's a problem. We seems to have problems with hypocrisy. That at one time, when you're in opposition, it was okay. Now you're in government, that's not okay. But the question is, where is CARICOM in all of this?
I don't have no confidence in CARICOM, so I don't even want to talk about them. They are a lost cause. I mean, clearly, CARICOM is not an institution that we should respect. I don't even think we should be part of CARICOM. We should align ourselves with South America. That is where we need to be. But let's get back to this elections thing. The point is, the people who are raising that concern about the Americans interfering, I mean, one particular one is Lincoln Lewis. He was on the top of his voice in 2015 and 2011 calling for all these changes. Where is his voice today? Lost. And this is the inconsistency I'm talking to. This is the inconsistency I'm talking about. Too many people are not walking. You know, me and Dr. Rose, we called out the PPP. We have on our records that we stood up to the PPP and demanded free and fair elections when that proroguement happened, and it happened. Free and fair elections.
Yeah, but sis, I said in 2014, 2015, you and Dr. Rose did a lot of letters to the press. What happened to the letters now? Are they dried up? Your pen is dried up? You and Dr. Rose?
I've been writing. The point is, you know, I'm in a different phase of my career, but what am I doing here? I'm here fighting for democracy. The point is, that's the point. The point is we need to ensure that GECOM does its work. And that's all my singular focus from now to March is just to ensure GECOM does its work. It doesn't matter who wins. That is the outcome. What is more important is the process between now to March.
And I think that's the mind of all Guyanese, whether at home or abroad. They really want GECOM to do their work, and I hope that the Madam Chairman.
But GECOM is not doing its work. It's not.
Well, they have a timeline now. They have committed themselves to a timeline. So we hope that they will keep to that timeline, and we will have elections on March 2nd. Now, having said that, as we said, for the entire broadcast today, we are talking about elections, the need for a new constitution. As I said, I don't think the PP want a new constitution. I don't think the PNC wants a new constitution. I was elated to hear Mr. Schuman, who says that the first priority in his administration will be to look at our constitution, and hopefully we'll have a new one within, as you said, within 14 months. I would say 2 years after election is fine, because you want to go across the country and get the input from as many Guyanese as possible. What do they want in a new constitution? And having said that, Mr. Schuman will be here next Saturday here in New York. He will be at the Queens Library, 11814 Hillside Avenue, from 2 o'clock. That is October 5th, which is the day for the restoration of democracy in Guyana. We hope this is a new beginning. So I want all of you here who are in New York, in Queens, please come to the meeting. We also have another meeting on the same day in Brooklyn at 1036 Rogers Avenue. So that's at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'll have one at 2 here in Queens, and then we'll move with Mr. Schuman to Brooklyn at the 5 o'clock meeting. So all of you in New York, please come out. Ask Mr. Schuman the hard questions. Put him on the spot. He should be here in the studio next Saturday. So I hope you will tune in to listen to him. Again, I'll be trying to ask him some question, but I want you to come and ask him your question. Sayes will not be here with us in the studio next Saturday. He's out on a program, on a project, and we wish him well in his travel, and we look forward to see him again sometime in the future. So Sayes, before we close, do you want to say anything?
I just want to encourage all Guyanese, especially those under 35 years of age and those first-time voters. Get yourself on the list. Make sure, especially those who've become 18, get yourself on the list. It starts on October 1st. Find your way there and make sure that you get registered. Please be patriots today. All Guyanese people, be patriots. This is not about government or opposition. This is about maintaining a democracy. We live in a hemisphere that is democratic in nature, save and except for Cuba, and of course, Venezuela. And we need to make sure that we stand on the right side of history. And the right side of history is democracy. So I'm appealing to all Guyanese people, get registered, get involved in pushing back on these shenanigans that are happening by way of GECOM. If GECOM doesn't follow the law, push back. Have your voice heard. Write letters to the press. Call into shows. You know, there's a show that you can easily call into called the Guyana Critic, ABC. It is a fantastic show to get your opinion out. Call in so that we can influence change and make sure that Guyana is protected, the Constitution is protected, the people's right to vote, every one man, one vote. That's the mantra. Ensure that every man has that right to vote. It doesn't matter who you are. Guyanese deserve what the rest of the world is enjoying in the democratic world. Thank you.
Beautifully said, Sayes. And not only one man, one vote, but do not vote race. Vote on issues. I think the racial voting has caused us to deteriorate in our country. If we continue, and as Sayes mentioned, almost 60% of our population are young people. The future belongs to you. And if you're going to vote race, don't blame no one for Guyana going down into the drain. If you vote on issues and then hold our politicians when you elect them to office to do whatever they promise you they will do, if not, there will be repercussions. Let them know that After 5 years, you don't do what you said you're going to do. As I was given a note a minute ago that yes, Sis and Dr. Rose did right against the PPP because they were in office for 23 years. This government is only in office for 5 years, so give them some chance, give them some breathing space. But the thing is, if a government do not perform, we need to hold them accountable. Again, I want to thank our studio audience. I want to thank those of us who was listening on social media. Thank you for tuning in. Of course, thanks to Nohar Singh and here at Globespan 24/7. Devin, our technical specialist, we want to thank you so much. Next week, at the same time, God's willing, we'll be here again. And on the program will be Mr. Lennox Schumann, the leader of the Liberty and Justice Party, who will be in New York. Again, thank you so much. And here from our studios in New York, goodbye and God bless you.